Hey everybody, Dr. Meri Crowley for Now Is the Time. And I'm here with Juan O, Savin, and it's out of the country, but we've got an amazing program today. There's a lot of things that are happening all over the world that we're going to be talking about, some things that are happening in Uganda, the Congo, that are in dire circumstances. But before we do that, let's roll that commercial about QE allergy. Let's roll that commercial now, please.
The quantum effect wipes out pain and allergy symptoms in less than 30 seconds with zero drugs. Pastor Dave and hundreds of others have experienced the quantum effect for themselves. It's backed by scientific research and rigorous lab testing. Quantum is simply about two things. One, intentions, as a man thinketh so he is, and two, renewing your mind with the Word of God. Only QE Strong encodes key intentions and Bible verses about healing onto the small patch. You simply place it on your body each day, and with a bonus prayer guide, read out loud a positive intention and one or two Bible verses about healing each day. The patch provides the touch, and the prayer guide uses your sight, speech, and hearing to relieve pain and allergy symptoms with the senses God gave you. It even works for people who have suffered decades of chronic symptoms. Are you ready to experience the quantum effect? Go to QEstrong.com/Meri.
Anyway, yes, all you need to do is go to QEstrong.com, put in my promo code Meri, M-E-R-I. They've got different patches, not only for allergy, but for pain, for sleeplessness, anxiety, a number of things that really does work. You can click on the link below or go to QEstrong.com, promo code Meri. Well, anyway, Juan, it's good to have you on. How have you been?
Very busy. So, it's Jen and I, she had a little bit of a break day today, and I was busy from earlier this morning until just about an hour ago. So, it's the nature of the moment in history. There might not be as much happening in the public side as people want to see, but behind the scenes, it's going very quickly. So, yeah.
Well, the last time I saw you, I was actually up in Plymouth, Massachusetts with Gideon's Army. And Juan, you were there with Jen, and that was an amazing time. A number of people there. Of course, this is where the Mayflower came. They signed the Mayflower Compact. It's a very strategic place in the country where the founding of our country really was, and the covenant with God. And so that was great seeing you there. And then, of course, went down to North Carolina. I was in Moravian Falls, and I spoke at a church called The Well. But the significance of the Moravians coming over to America, the 100-year prayer meeting with Count Zinzendorf. There's a lot of this history of our country that a lot of people don't really know about, or the deep state has tried to literally put different history in there to really change our history. But our history was founded, America was founded upon the principles of God and covenant with God. And so I just got back recently. So now you've been traveling around the world, and there's some interesting situations that are having globally and worldwide that some people would think, well, if it doesn't affect me, why should I care? But we should care, because that's what God says for us to do, to pray and to care. But what's happening that you feel right now that's really
Well,
over the target?
the most important thing to me right this exact second is we've got the fighting in Congo toned down, but it's not done. And there's a lot that needs to be done there to stop it. You got 10 million people dead in the last 7 years or so. Now, some people want to say, no, it's in the last 30 years. When you talk locally and look at the numbers, it's a lot. And there's a dozen countries that had their hands into Congo looking for cobalt and other things that are needed for industry, if you will. And at the top end of all that was really China. So they wanted the unrest there. Now, President Trump, has tried to work with the president there in Congo. And a week and a half ago, he was supposed to be in Washington, D.C., meeting with President Trump to finish a deal on U.S. assistance to get their mining industry going again. And a ceasefire that was agreed to by their uh, ambassador and some of the other groups out of Rwanda and ISIS and all sorts of other people. That had to be called off at the last second because there was a coup attempt that was discovered by people in other offices, elected offices. And so the president couldn't leave. And they actually had to pick up a number of people, military and other elected politicians, and they're trying to work through that. Well, in the
So was this a
meantime,
coup attempt one in the Congo?
on the president of Congo to take him out
Okay.
before he could go meet with Trump. They do not want him to meet with Trump. Now, this is the second time a meeting with Trump has had to be canceled or delayed. In the meantime, while there's still killing going on in Congo, but it is greatly reduced, thank God. You have about 2 million refugees in Uganda next door. And that was part of the reason why Uganda was involved, is they're trying to bring an end to this thing because all the citizens out of this region of Congo and Goma and like that, to get away from all the fighting, had to move into Uganda, which put tremendous pressure. They're not they're a rich country if they get into their mining, but the reality is Uganda doesn't have a lot of money to spare. And so you get 2 million people on your soil. And UN stepped in, gave some money, here and there. Well, that money is set to expire at the end of August. And then you have 2 million people with no food, nowhere to go. Uganda hasn't got it to feed them. So the world needs to show up, get some money there to help these people to bridge them through while we figure out a better plan. And then at the end of the day, Uganda doesn't have the ability truly to absorb those refugees. They've absorbed refugees from other countries around the region, Eritrea, Somalia, even Kenya, Tanzania. So, they're under a lot of pressure too. Ideally, what needs to happen is we get Congo stabilized enough that people can begin returning home. They don't want to live in Uganda. They're, living in nothing. If they can get back to Congo and they're not afraid of dying, in these slaughters, then that's great. The other day, a Muslim group went into a church, middle of the night. They were having an all-night worship and prayer service in this church in the Congo, seeking the Lord, things that you and I have done. They're having an all-night prayer vigil. And these Muslim group came in there that wants everybody to leave, die or leave, and slaughtered around 100 of them with machetes. And when they go in to do what they do, they don't just kill somebody. They got to make it demonstrative to scare everybody else. So this horrible event happened during a worship service in the Congo. That's our tribe. That's us. 90%, over 90% of the population of the Congo is Christian. So this very tiny fraction has been trying to, and they're very demonstrative. They're very terroristic in what they do. They're supported by China, ultimately, ISIS, Iran. So they're just going to have to be dealt with. It's going to take military intervention. Congo doesn't have any military at all to spare, hardly. They're just completely stretched. There's going to have to be something that happens there. So, but in the short term, to get there, you're going to have starving that's way greater than anything that's going on up in Gaza, which is very serious. It's horrible. But on a scale that's much, much, much greater. And that's weeks away. They're already on very thin food supply and have been for a long time, but now they're going to have no money at all for the food supply. So there's going to have to be people step in to try and bridge those people through while we create a better situation to get them back home. And prayer required. So we think of all the budget stuff and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and 1,000 different things, the tariffs, business in America, but you're about to have a mass starvation situation, and those people have nowhere to go, and the people where they're living around, they don't have any extra to give to. They're all stretched. We got to be on deck somehow. We're trying to work through what that might look like to get some emergency relief in there. The logistics of getting it there. You're not feeding 50 people. You're feeding 2 million. So the money to buy what they can locally and other supplies dropped in to keep them moving. So a very tense situation.
Well, I know, Juan, a lot of people that are listening right now might think, well, that's the Congo. I mean, how does that affect me? But you know what? We can't think that way. We have to look at the Congo is a very important part of the world, and explain why the Congo is so important, Juan, and why
Well,
they've come in there and tried to really upset that whole region.
arguably the people living in the Congo per capita, that nation as a group, are the wealthiest people on planet Earth. They have more in the ground wealth than any other people on the planet. It's very dense in very expensive, valuable minerals, but it's all under their feet. They can't get to it. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the mechanisms and the training and everything else to access those minerals. So a few people have been in there, China and others. They want it dysfunctional because they don't really have a legal title deed to be there. So they want the country dysfunctional. They want the people pushed out. They wanted an overthrow, somebody that would come in there and let them come in and take over China. And that's why the president of Congo, President Tikasheti, reached out to Trump. We'll give you everything. Just come save us, because they were about to be overthrown back at Christmas time by these rebel groups. And that's been stabilized up to a certain point so far, but it's not done. And then I say to this audience, it's a church audience, this is a Christian nation. It's only because the people that are there to be their brother's keeper, not their brother's brother, that they can't seem to get on an even keel. And, they got their freedom 30 years ago, but they've never been able to enjoy it. They were a colony of, at that time, Belgium. And Belgium, walked away, and the people are there, but everybody keeps coming and starting the next war is there to get the minerals for free. And this is what's really going on.
Well, Juan, I've been to Uganda where these refugees are right now. And if you look at the history of Uganda, Idi Amin came in there, I was at the 70s or whatever, and he literally ethnic cleansed. He got rid of all the lawyers, the attorneys, the educators, pretty much wiped them out. And they saw what happened. And the people actually learned how to pray. And really that nation was turned around with prayer and was rebuilt. And so Uganda is a very strong Christian nation. But we need to pray for the Congo right now because, well, my friend Bree Keaton, who I know have you met Bree in person?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she
trying to
was
work
up in,
together on these. Yeah.
yeah, we were up in Idaho, and I've interviewed Bree, but I met her for the first time, and her story is miraculous, everyone. She was actually told by God, she heard an audible voice that told her to go to the pygmies, and she went. And I mean, it's a supernatural story. I mean, this woman has a lot of courage, and literally they tried to shoot, these rebels tried to shoot her, and God put a force field up where the bullets just came to the ground. I mean, supernatural miracle stories about what God has done with Bree Keaton and this team of people that have really tried to go in to help these pygmies, because they look at them as kind of like an appetizer. And it's an amazing story. So, well, we'll be praying. Where can people send? I mean, we didn't really talk about this in advance, but is there some way that people can send money to? What would be a good solution here, at least for now, Juan?
I'm not asking for any money personally to do what we're doing, and I don't know that there's a place that I think is a good, trustworthy repository to get money to. We're working through it. There's money in places, but these people have to cut loose with it, and I don't need, $15 and an airlift and all that. We're working
Yeah.
through what's really actually going to get the job done. And I met with folks earlier today on trying to get a $20 million bridge in there to the government of Uganda, who is very highly motivated to keep these people okay while we work the deal, to be able to make it so they can go home as soon as possible, start the migration back into Congo. So, wisdom and prayer required, divine favor, assistance to get this where it's got to get to. Um, and yeah.
Well, so we need to pray, everybody, just as it says in Second Chronicles, that if God's people will pray, seek his face, and turn from our wicked ways, and God said he will hear from heaven and heal our land. And so we've been seeing around the world, like what God is literally, we're seeing different information coming out with Tulsi Gabbard, different ones actually, this narrative now that the 2020 stolen election. I mean, we're seeing things flip around. On that, segueing over to another situation and what's happening in America, in a lot of the news that's coming out in treason. I just did a show with Larry Ballard about Obama and the treason and the exposure that's coming. What do you think is going to be happening on that front, Juan, in particular with Obama and some of the information that's coming out?
Well, my personal inclination on this, while everybody's looking at all roads leading to Obama, the process to get to arresting Obama has a few stops along the way. And I believe that the first stop will be the Russia stuff, which was Hillary. Um, it was her campaign that gave money to, um, have this created, this false narrative in the city of London, right down the street from me. And sorry, I just picked up the hiccups for some reason. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but I think it starts with Hillary, that crowd, and progresses and ends up at Obama in the actual arrest, and that's still a few months out. The case has to be built out a little bit further. And for those that think Obama can't be arrested, no, he can easily be arrested. Many of the crimes that he's involved in occurred after his presidency, let alone the ones before. So no, he'll get picked up eventually in all of this. The election fraud in 2020. We have the people on U.S. soil. I've told your audience that before. When Tulsi Gabbard briefed the president 3 months ago, and after she had been briefed for 4 days, her staff 3.5, and then half a day that she was personally briefed. The next day, she went to the cabinet meeting with the president, and she says, "It's just like you said, Mr. President. We're going to have to go to a hand count paper ballot. So Trump has already read his own cabinet in. We're going to a hand count paper ballot." Well, she's reiterating, it's just like you said, we're going to have to go to a hand count paper ballot. Then she says, because we now have proof, I'm adding the because, she says, we now have proof of a stolen election. So you did not get the person in office that you voted for from 2020 to 2020, 2021 to 2025, January 20th. And it wasn't even Biden. Loy and I are getting ready to start our effort nationally, Loy Brunson, and beginning the move towards impeaching the Biden presidency retroactively. We've had a proposed legislative um, uh, bill put together, and we're honing that right now. We got people looking it over to make sure we got it right, quality people, and then we're going to push hard that Biden has to be impeached. So it's going to happen. Question is, when did it happen? Does it happen? Does it happen in a year? Does it happen in 6 months? Does it happen opening a business um, because the public puts the pressure on here in the fall Congress? And I think it has to happen sooner or later. And it has to be done. You got to get the 2/3 in the Senate to vote it. But we have enough information. We know what's going on. The Biden presidency was being run by people who weren't elected president. He was being puppeteered from the beginning to the end. And so, with that in mind, the entire presidency of Biden needs to be overturned, revoked, stopped. What happens when you do that? There's a lot of actions that happen under the Biden presidency that need to be nullified, including a Supreme Court judge, and that needs to be taken out because that was not done lawfully correctly. If Biden wasn't lawfully correctly the elected president of the United States, if fraud occurred, these are all things you're going to have to get mashed through all fall. And along the way, before you probably actually end up with the excuse me, an impeachment of Biden.
Well, and I know one, I know Loy, actually, I did an interview with one, I mean, Loy a couple weeks ago, and we actually talked about, uh, the guy who's running for mayor, the socialist guy. He said really against the Constitution to have somebody like that running. So we were going to do a showdown in New York. We thought, let's do a showdown in New York. So we had some plans that we thought would be kind of interesting to do with what Loy is doing. So God has got a bigger plan. And as long, I think, as we all come together in unity and we hear the plans, like in Jeremiah 29:11, God says, I know the plans that I have for you, and plans to give you hope and prosper your future. So right now we're seeing a showdown with these demonic entities and these elites and cabal that have tried to think that, they have been running the things behind the scene, in particular the media, which is what was able to push their fear porn and everything they've done over the last, in particular, 5-6 years with COVID. And so, Juan, for the people so we're in a showdown situation, in particular, because, I have a film about sex trafficking in America called Freedom Cry. We're going to be doing our 7th Open the Heavens. Juan, you've been at least 3 in person, and most of the other ones you've been coming in on Zoom. The last one you weren't able to come in on, but the 7th Open the Heavens, everyone, is going to be on November 1st, 11/1, in San Francisco. And you won't believe where we're going to do it, Juan, at the Scottish Rite Masonic Lodge. I'm telling you, it's God's opening this door for that. And there's a church that meets in there for 7 years called the Father's House. And they're an amazing church. And so we're going into the belly of the beast, so to speak. And my pastor of Harvest International Ministry, Pastor Cheon, is running for governor. I was just at the press conference on Saturday. So we're inviting Pastor Che. We're inviting Lou Engle. One, there's going to be on October 9th, 10th, 11th. I don't have all the details, but there's going to be 50 states that are going to be coming together with 50 tents. And it's going to be called Awaken the Dawn, where they're going to have a mile-long communion table where people are going to be come to do the communion of the Lord in the city of Washington, D.C. And we're going to be breaking bread together and coming together in unity and community to pray for our nation and to see our nation turned. And so anyway, there's some showdowns coming. So Juan, I want you to come to San Francisco. And it's 11/1. It's the day after Halloween, which is actually, I don't call it Halloween. It's Reformation Day. In 1517, that's when Martin Luther tacked the 95 Theses on the door of the Chapel of Wittenberg in October 31st. Satan's hijacked it to Halloween, but it's actually the day that the Reformation happened with Martin Luther. So Juan, what's your thoughts on where America is going? I mean, I know that, and I've said the same thing, that we've been seeing that I do believe there's going to be a moment that's going to come that's going to look that we're not out of the woods.
Well, let me take the ball here for a couple things. Number one, I certainly would love to come out to San Francisco. I've got plans out of the country that exact date, but it may be that I can pop back in and pop back out for that because I'll be gone for a couple months and do have to come back on a couple occasions. So I'd love to come over and maybe try to do that. At the very least, I do it remotely. Then the second thing is, I expect that there's going to be pushback as we get into the arrest phase. Everybody's been warned arrests are coming. And so don't think for an instant that nothing's going to happen or nobody's going to jail. The reality is it'll start at Justice Department and switch over to military for a bunch of logistical reasons. Treason occurred here on lots of different levels. So it's going to be a gripping period. At the same time, look at what's going on the nuclear stuff. I've been saying for a very long time before this is over, it's going to be like the Cuban Missile Crisis because there is a push by a group behind the scenes that wants 3 world wars. And by the way, that's within the Albert Pike thesis, Morals and Dogma, and he was a Scottish Rite Freemason. So here you are at this location where the person that it's built around, dedicated to, was the one that wanted 3 world wars, and the third war was religious. The 3 Abrahamic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, because of course that goes back to the other child of Jacob. Okay, I mean of Abraham. I'm sorry, and Ishmael, and so you're going to have all 3 brothers fighting. That's what the devil wants in a 3rd world war based out of the Mideast. So we're praying against that doesn't happen, the way they want it, the timing they want, and even doing some kind of an event at that location. I have lots of people that are in the Masonic movement that I know that are actually beautiful people, but they are under a misunderstanding of what's going on there. Albert Pike says it right in the middle of the book. Let there be no misunderstanding. The God whom we serve is Lucifer, right at the center of Morals and Dogma. He wrote the book and he said the spirit that taught him all the things that he learned, that he puts and lays out in the book Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike said he wrote the book in green ink in honor of the spirit who taught him all these things, because the spirit was green. Oh, okay. Well, what spirit is that? For he hid amongst the green leaves of the garden while he waited for the right opportunity to go talk to Eve and beguile her when Adam wasn't around. It's this whole green thing.
Well, the green man, you call him the green man.
Yeah, so we're in a spiritual war. The devil himself is behind it. And then we have other things. Look at what's going on in the nuclear world. Trump just said a few days ago he's sending a couple of nuclear submarines to a different location where they're going to monitor Russian activities and be closer should those submarines have to fire on Russia and destroy some. Russia's lost half of its air force that can carry nuclear weapons in a drone attack in the Ukraine thing. They lost the General Kirilov, who was trying to track a bunch of missing nuclear devices that Gorbachev allegedly sent to Iran. According to people inside Russia, and Kurt Weldon, the congressman in that time back at the 90s, said that Gorbachev's people told him that they had sent these items down to, or not Gorbachev's people, but Yeltsin's people told him that they had information that Gorbachev had sent 200, what they call a demolition nuke. It's a tactical nuke, kind of the suitcase, whatever way you want to call it, to Iran. And that in this period, when we blew up those facilities in Iran, in part what they're doing is creating stuff to refresh some of those nukes. They didn't have to totally make brand new stuff. Krylov, the Russian general, who was a close friend of Putin, that was killed in the motor scooter attack in downtown Moscow, that was aided a 1-year operation to do the drone attack, and then probably a similar amount of time to get the setup to get to Krylov. Krylov was in charge of tracking down the materials that were being used potentially to refresh some of these old nuclear weapons out of the Soviet Union era. And he got killed. So all those drones that were working on the East Coast in the period prior to the 2024 election. And, Trump was asking, he says, well, I can't say, but it's pretty obvious. Later he says, yeah, it's nukes. They're trying to track down nuclear material. So, one nuke could be pretty horrible. Imagine if he had more than one or one really big one, a couple places, there's 2 big ones missing, and then a bunch of smaller ones. Would that be a dark day for the country? Would that be 9/11 on steroids? Are you just unfortunately in the wrong place at the right time? Is it in a major city like London, New York, LA, Chicago? By the way, Chicago, very delicate situation there. There's always been a 1-2 theme that was in there that Seattle would be first, Chicago would be second. Seattle was thwarted, didn't get the nuke that it was supposed to get on November 3rd, 2019. So, is there a near-death experience for America coming? I believe so. And we're not through the worst of it yet. And that's why, as we move to take the people out of government who are treasonous traitors that damage Trump's ability to have a first term of any consequence in many ways, and they're seeking to do the same again right now, and that stole the vote and went in and interrupted the vote. We're going to take down the Russia people. We're going to take down the people that stole the vote in 2020 and 2024, tried to, and it's going to have disruptive effects across the country. They want to take down the economy, damage the economy to distract from what Trump is doing, including the tariff money and stuff like that. So I expect some kind of a hard attack into the money system in a broader sense that will take, a little bit to get through and, re-put together. Whatever the attack is, it could be something else military with the nukes. It could be something else that we haven't anticipated politically. Another attempt on Trump's life. There's some drama ahead that they're not done. And it's God himself that'll save us through it. God will not share the glory for what happens with any man, and will show that he alone is the protection and salvation for America. and I believe that's what's just ahead. Is it this week, this month? And I think it's a few months out, first of the year, early next year. But there's a dark day coming. In the meantime, this audience needs to be kind of prepared for that and to have an uplifting word of encouragement, because it's not all over, coming into that dark day and during it, that is a word of faith to get us through that and to help people to bridge through. And look at how many people were ready to abandon Trump, knife him in the back over the last month over issues like Gaza and similar. Just in an instant, and they were all, "Yeah, we love you, Trump. We're going. You're doing great." And all that. One little piece of information they didn't like, and they're ready to toss him overboard. Well, that's too mercurial, and that's no depth to you. Um, and I think that there's other attempts to get the public to flip, turn, wring their hands, whatever. And that's where it's not Trump that'll be tested. It's we, this type of an audience. Are we looking to God to protect and save America? Or are we looking to a man?
Well, one I've shared, I always try to give, the Lord always gives me an encouraging word, but he's always been telling me there's a storm, that there's a storm coming. And even
It's
with the
here.
general, well, but there's something, I believe, of some type of event or moment that we're
it's
in
a it's
the midst of something.
it's a cascading moment that we're coming
Yeah,
up, and
yeah,
the waves are getting taller.
yeah. Well,
So
just like the appeal to heaven flag that General Washington would have them go out in front of the battle with. That somebody I know had a vision of actually the American flag crumpled up, spread out. It was all wrinkled, it was all battered, thin, and she saw this appeal to heaven flag come down over the flag, and all of a sudden the stars and the stripes started to come out. That God was reforming America, that it would look like a near-death experience, but it was through this circumstance, situation, moment in time in history that really the remnant, like in Gideon's army, would rise. And that's why we were just at this event with Gideon's army, with a small with just a small group of people. But I don't believe it's going to be the masses. Believe it's going to be a remnant that's going to rise um, to the culture and going to shift things through prayer and movement and change. And so, yeah, he said, don't get stuck in the storm. Some people are going to look at the storm, but we have to look at him, at Jesus, and speak to the storm, but then take action. So Juan, this isn't going to be, I'm only got another like 15 minutes left, and I honor the time that you have.
well,
The people that,
let me answer one thing before we move on.
sure.
Um, that Gideon's army, that remnant, that whatever. We have a lot of people of faith in the country, but their faith is circumstantial. Their faith is um, shallow. It's not been exercised for a long time. It's it's circumstantial faith. If everything's going great, gee, I love God, and it's all great. One thing goes wrong, I hate you, God. Where are you? Why didn't you? Whatever, accusatory. Um, this period is going to be a cleansing period for this specific type of an audience and for the Gideon's army type of an audience. The testing for this kind of a group is, are you going to stand at the most critical part in the fight? Are you not walking home? Are you ready to fight? Are you even able to be called by God? I mentioned to the folks today in something I was doing, um, you can't just spend money and get a great quarterback at certain moments in time. They don't just show up out of nowhere. You can't just be, well, I like this guy. He's handsome. He's he'll do a good commercial. He talks right and everything else. And that can be your football quarterback. There's, lots of guys that want to be the guy to carry the football, to be the quarterback. Even in that whole row of guys up there, there's usually just one guy that's actually even capable of doing the job in certain lanes. I think this is that kind of an audience where you're all first string quarterbacks in your community, in your family, in your work. And what you have to do is show up when these things happen. First responders, firemen, police officers, they don't run away from trouble. They run to the sound of gunfire. They run to the sound of the screaming. They run to the sound of the crackling of the flames, crunch of metal, and they're there first in to try and help prolong life, buy time, to get people that golden hour, to get them through to the other side of whatever crisis they've hit. In what's coming, these aren't the people that go find a rock to hide under, dig deeper in their bomb shelter. I got mine, too bad about you, and hide deeper in the fridge. These are the people that have already saved something extra for the people around them, who have anticipated this moment and are prepared to bridge through the right word and season, with a prayer of faith, with a healing ointment, to get people through so they survive to the other side. I mean, I look at this situation over in the Congo and in Uganda. I think if we can hold for about 7-8 months, all of those people are going to do excellent. But what's the number we could lose in the next few weeks? Maybe 1%. If the needed materials aren't there in a month and a half or 2 months, is it 3%? If it's not there in 4 months or 5 months, is it 10 or 20%? Is that an acceptable number? We didn't get them all, but we got most of them. This crowd, none of those figures work. I'm going to go save them all. We're going to bridge them through. We're going to figure out. We're going to get the assistance we need. We're not sitting on our hands. And that'll be the moment that America's in, when first responders in the spiritual world show up, not for personal gain or glory or whatever. They might not ever even, their story may be known only to God himself. And God is happy to have that. He loves that there are some who no one in this world will ever know. He saves that for himself because they're special. They've done something special. It was done because of their love, faith in him, his word, his call. And it's only known because he reveals it in the world to come. We're in that kind of a moment. This audience is full of eagles. They soar alone. It's an American way of doing it. And if you don't get credit, you don't get credit. Who cares? You're doing what God.
I know, Juan, don't mean to interrupt. I know that he kept telling me when I spoke up there before you came, that you came the day after and shared, but he kept telling me almost like a charge, like, are you willing to go all the way? Are you willing to go the distance? And I feel that's what he's saying to you guys watching right now. Like Juan was talking about, you guys are eagles and we have to go the distance. So many times, Juan, over the last 5 years, I've lost many colleagues, that the producer of my film, the writer, so many different people that died. And there was times that I just kind of didn't want to die per se, but I just heard the Lord say to me, like, stay the course, hold the line. And then he asked me a question like, well, what about the children? What about them? Do you want to just go because it might be easier? Like some people go, well, I just want to go to heaven. Well, yeah, we all will one day if we believe in Jesus. God wants no one to perish, but it's about what they're doing to the children now around the world. That is the fuel of the demonic realm of the children. And we have to stay the course for them. What they do to the least of these, they do to him. And coming together in these moments, like at the Gideon's Army event that you came to, that I came to, that we were willing to go to a place that we really didn't get paid. I mean, we didn't, yeah, we might have sold some boat, whatever, but no, we went there because God called it. And, Juan, I know that you and Jen and, you go to where God says, because we know that we're in a battle. And if America goes down, the world will go down. And so, Juan, we appreciate you and what you carry. And you're a man. I mean, you're a human being, but you know what? You've said yes. And so we bless you, Juan. So, as we've just got about 10 minutes left, Juan, another thing that God spoke to me at that Gideon's army is he had all the men come up and God spoke to the men. I mean, not kind of trying to chastise them or berate them, but he literally said it's time for the men to rise up again. And men, if you're listening, he told me, Juan, he said, tell the men they're not a pimp, a pirate, or a pawn, but a prince and a king. And that's who you are, men. You're kings and princes. And I just want you to maybe give a charge to the men, Juan, because there's been a lot of mama bears on the front line. There have been a lot of women that have been praying and fighting and staying and doing whatever God said to do. But I believe that it's going to be the man, the household. If a father is in the home, that there's something about a father, like in Malachi, it says he's going to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children. Juan, what would you say to the men in particular that are watching this show right now?
You know, so much of what's said is kind of cheesy. A lot of the organizations, you think of Jesus and the way that he's portrayed in most of the churches is kind of effeminate. And he's so loving, he's so kind, he loves everybody. And he doesn't come across as a man's man. Um, Yet when you actually, that was one of the things reading Edersheim's The Life and Times of Jesus Christ the Messiah, written in the 1800s, middle late 1800s. Edersheim was this scholar who traveled and went wherever Christ walked and tried to be there in the right season and ask all the questions: what flowers were in bloom, what was the industry like in the area, what was the politics like at the moment. And so it's two large volumes. I think it's like 12, 1,300 pages. I I absorbed all the pages I read. I mean, I'd take a day just reading a page, to be honest with you, because I'd cross-reference stuff. I'd look at all this stuff. It was so enjoyable to read that. But I think one of the things that came out to me more than anything else in Edersheim's portrayal of Christ was his strength, his um, while he had compassion, it was a very strong compassion. Remember, this is the guy who fashioned a whip. He was there watching the money changers. And while he was watching the money changers doing their business, people coming to make their sacrifices to make atonement with God in heaven at the temple. And these guys were getting between God and these people trying to reconcile themselves with God through the sacrifice, doing a little business at the table. Oh, well, there is a spot here. I do find a spot here. Let me check with my brother-in-law. Yeah, he's the priest here. Yeah, he says this won't be acceptable. Look, I've got some good ones in the back, and we'll sell you one that's the right one. I'll take this on trade if you'd like. And then they go back in the back, bleach the black spot out, and resell it to the next guy, right? And Christ was so incensed by this. He had a divine rage. Remember the first verse of John. I've said, Christ put on human flesh like we put on a coat. It was God himself came to stand in our place and take the punishment of sin so we could be reconciled with him. Well, in John 1:1, it says, in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. There was a certain truth. There's a certain commanding voice to that, the word. Everything in the world was created because God spoke it into existence. Christ overturned those money changers' tables. They all ran in fear, and he flung that whip around that he made right there in their presence. He made it, pulled it tight, all the braiding that went into it. He wasn't a girly boy, and
Yeah.
he walked long distances with the apostles. Uh, uh, he was, grew up a carpenter's son, and there's some great stories there. The best story, by the way, talk about strength. His father was a carpenter, his earthly father. And so he had made a throne for a regional king. When he got done, he realized it was off in the measurements. He'd made it slightly too narrow and had screwed the whole thing up. And now the person's coming to pick it up. They've got him coming. And he realizes this mistake. And so in one of the writings that's not in scripture, it was just a letter between people. The tale is told that Joseph was very disturbed by this. He was beside himself because this was not done correctly. And Christ was kind of laughing about it, seeing it, noting it, may have even discovered the issue. And he says, well, we can fix this. And he has his father grab the other side of the throne. He grabs one side, his father grabs the other side, and they pull in faith, and the throne widens out 6 inches or whatever it needed to be. And, real strength widens his throne. There's even in the telling of that particular tale, there's enough in all the things you hear from Christ. He was confident, and he spoke to the masses in a very strong, resounding way that inspired people to courage and to strength and to go do things. The apostles went out by twos because he told them to, and then commanded demons to leave because Christ gave them the authority to cast out demons. And these demons, when they left, were very demonstrative, very destructive, very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And he stood right there and did it. He was a man's man. Worshiping the God of creation, the Christ that came and went through the torments of the whip and the thorns on the head and the cross itself willingly, when he could have called down legions of angels to put a stop to it, to stand in the way. That's a man's man. That's one who's going to go the distance for the glory of what was before him. That's every guy, I hope, in this audience, that by the power of Christ, you will do likewise. Christ said, greater things will you do than I. And stepping forward as the man, being the man, I think of the stuff in the Congo. If you can't protect the innocent, half of those people there are under 18 years old. They're kids. Probably half of that under 18 or under 10. If you won't step forward to protect those that are unable to protect themselves, oh, but God, I need this, and please help me with that, and whatever. Why would God help you when you're not able to even, budget time or resources to protect those that can't even protect themselves, that are the innocents, the women and children, the weaker of the flesh. It's not that guys don't want to do that. They just don't see the opening. And then the churches, the organizations tend to favor a more receding, quieter guy. They don't see the angles for guys to jump in there readily. As a group, as an organization, as people, there's some position that's not just singing in the choir, that every guy in here is the right guy to step into a situation and say, no, not on my watch. We're going to get this sorted out. We're going to protect an innocent child. We're going to, uh, stop the trafficking. We're going to make sure that some kid isn't not getting fed this night. And we'll figure it out. That's what guys do. They figure it out. Okay. And I think that's where we are. God, if I don't know what exactly to do, I can pray a prayer. Father God, I want to be that agent of change. I want to be the man you made me to be. Help me to know how to act, what to do, how to step forward to be the man you made me to be in this situation. Okay. And the devil wants that not to happen. And he'll do anything to throw you off course, anything.
Well, and it's time to rise the occasion. I've only got a few minutes left because I have to be at another appointment. But one, it is one thing about Jesus too, just in regards to the women, that he literally gave women a voice. That did not happen up until that point. He was a leader that inspired women and said, "Follow me." And there's a number of stories we could share about that. But the men, it's time for the men to rise up again. And it's just like Gideon. I mean, it came to the point where the Midianites, 7 years, they were in the hand of the enemy because they did not obey the voice of God. And he sent a prophet and warned them. And he chose a man, Gideon, that said, I'm the least in my father's house. So sometimes one, as you know, he'll use the ones that we least likely expect to be champions during seasons and times that
Well, there's a repeating theme there, by the way. Uh, when the priest went out to find the young man that should be anointed to be king, all of David's older brothers were the ones that were put forward like being the one. David was out herding sheep.
Yeah.
But when the critical moment came and he was called on, he only went out as the sandwich delivery guy. I'm here with the Uber sandwich for my brothers. There's a great battle here and they're fighting everybody. He was called out. He gets there. Saul's got his great armor. He's beautiful. He's handsome. David's brothers are strong and they're all trying to. He's the sheep herder. He gets there, delivers the sandwiches to his brother. Here's Goliath come out and taunt the Israelites. And David says, well, why are you putting up with this shit? You don't have anybody here that's going to go do that. David goes out, crosses the valley of the shadow of death, and doesn't wear any armor because it's all the armor that's there is too big and heavy. It won't let him work. And with his slingshot, plants one right between the eyeballs there on Goliath's head. He had protective head thing. He couldn't be high, he couldn't be low. Impacted right between the eyes and killed Goliath. And it was his skill sets protecting sheep from wolves and other predators that he killed a lion, he killed wolves and all that because he was a good marksman with his slingshot. He's a gunslinger. And I'm telling you that there's guys out here in this audience that are not action heroes by size, but they got skill sets. They got understanding. God's got them in just the right place. They're sharp with their knowledge and the way that they can perform, not in the world's view, but from God's view. He's prepared them for a moment just ahead. And those gunslingers are going to come in and nail the enemy. And that's what we're really going to do. We're going to take back the country from this effeminate spirit that would emasculate the men and resettle this country with a settler spirit. You know, the first year the Pilgrims lost 106 people dead. That's how many died. There were some tough people, but even then, only a portion of them survived. These are the survivors in this crowd right here. We're going to take the land back. That's what it's all about. And the guys are going to lead the way.
Yeah, amen. Well, listen, Juan, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people uh where can they go and get the merch, get the different things that what kind of do you have any specials? Does Jen have any specials this week?
You know, we have some of the coins from last year and the year before, just a few, and I think she's numbered how many are there that people want to get them that are kind of the collector coins. And we have the current one for this year that just came out a month or so ago. Silver is going to go up dramatically from here. You're just in that low before it goes to the next high. It's already broke up into 39, into the 39 range. It retreated back into the 36, which I said it was probably going to come back. The next stop is just shy of 50. So I expect that over the next month and a half with all the news, but certainly by the end of the year. And that's kind of a fun thing. And the coins all have a message to them.
That's at the Jennifer, what website is that?
Yeah.
The Jennifer Mack?
The JenniferMack.com and also over at gumroad.com.
Okay, that's on the screen.
Yeah.
That's on the screen, everyone. So listen, I have to jump, but
Okay.
listen, go to marycrowley.com. We're going to put up, we're getting the flyer done for the 11-1 event. The Golden Gate Bridge. I'm telling you, there's something about San Francisco. It's the city of St. Francis. God is going to redeem some of these cities. And also on August 16th, we'll have it up on my website, the pre-Open the Heavens Summer of Love event at the Sunset Bible Church. And so it's going to be amazing from 1 to 8. A lot of pastors in the regions and people we're going to come together and worship. Enrique Morales, we've got some incredible people there. We're going to pray, we're going to worship, and we're going to get prepared for what's getting ready to come in the fall, in particular in the city of San Francisco. I'll have other events up there we're going to do, but thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share this with people, and go to Jen's sites, go to my site, and the best is yet to come. So we'll continue to pray for the Congo. Pray for the Congo, pray for Uganda, pray for these countries in particular right now. And I do believe God's going to show up and show off. And we're going to see a mighty awakening and a great awakening for the kingdom of heaven is coming to earth. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks, Juan, for coming on. And we'll see you soon. God bless.